Netflix, once a hub for groundbreaking entertainment, has now become a platform poisoned by wokeism. The shows you loved are twisted into political sermons, and the stories are sacrificed on the altar of social justice. Witness how this relentless agenda has infiltrated every corner of the streaming giant, leaving viewers wondering if Netflix has betrayed its true essence. Let's start with a prime example. Alexander, The Making of a God. A new Netflix documentary drama has been slammed for woke washing as viewers review bomb the show.
Him. Will you stand by and watch him take your homes, your livelihoods? Let their filthy Greek hands molest your wives.
The 6-part documentary, Alexander, The Making of a God, has an average Google review score of just 2.5 stars, with a number of viewers complaining about its focus on the historic ruler's sexuality. Alexander the Great is well known as one of the most successful military men of all time, amassing an empire in the 4th century BC from his native Macedonia as far as India and also into Egypt before he died aged just 32. But with the help of experts, Alexander, The Making of a God aims to recount his conquest through a new lens, including by exploring his relationships. An X account named End Wokeness gave a review the week after the January 31st release. Netflix made a new documentary about Alexander the Great. Within the first 8 minutes, they turned him gay. One posted a 1-star review to Google. The show starts off full-on homoerotic, because according to Netflix, everyone is gay. 30 minutes of skippable scenes later, the show goes full-on into woke washing. What is that? Every single piece of history was made as safe and inoffensive as possible. Even the supposed experts were choking on their sanitized descriptions. The dialogue and lines appeared to be written by a child who grew up on memes. The Total War video game series had better motivational pre-war speeches than this show of charged positivity. Both kings, Alexander and Darius, Alexander's Persian adversary, were depicted as weak and groveling. Not words and behaviors you'd expect from warlord rulers. The show seemed to lean more towards a pity show for Darius than a documentary of Alexander. It was terrible. Netflix needs to stop making shows and go back to being a streaming service. While Alexander the Great had at least 2 children and 3 marriages, literature concerning him also notes that his most prominent companion was his general and bodyguard, Hephaestion. Additionally, upon conquering King Darius's Persia, Alexander is said to have taken the former king's eunuch, Bagoas, as a lover. But his apparent love of Hephaestion endured until the bodyguard's death, when Alexander was said to lay weeping on his comrade for a day and night before being pried away. Elaborate funeral games were held in Babylon in Hephaestion's honor, and Alexander died aged just 32 a year later. However, one history buff insisted that I can say with certainty that there is zero evidence Alexander was gay, as they left a 2-star review. Is there hope? Netflix appears to steadily be climbing its way out of financial ruin after canceling woke programming and deciding to back figures like Dave Chappelle. The streaming service took a hit in the first half of 2022, losing about 1,170,000 subscribers as rivals, such as Paramount and Disney, raked them in. Some saw the huge decline as a direct consequence of the company's late response to demands from its viewers to tone down their wake agenda. But Netflix started bouncing back after the cancellation of some of its progressive programming flops, including Meghan Markle's Pearl, Dr. Ibram X, Kendi's Anti-Racist Baby, and He's Expecting, which depicts a man who becomes pregnant. Netflix added about 7.6 million subscribers in the fourth quarter of 2022, which was higher than forecast, and is now at about 2,700,000 paid subscribers. The share price went from $2.30 in October 2022 to $2.99 in March 2023. Over the past couple of years, Netflix traded woke content for true crime documentaries like Dahmer, Monster, The Jeffrey Dahmer Story, The Murdaugh Murders, along with anti-woke comedians Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock. Following that, Netflix canceled the animated kids series Ridley Jones after releasing its 5th final season. It comes as 2-time Kids Screen Award winner, and Emmy nominee series received harsh criticism online amid Episode 8 of Season 5, Herd Day, which centers around a bison called Fred who comes out as non-binary to their grandmother. As part of the wave of cutbacks prompted by Netflix's drop in subscribers, in the first quarter of 2022, Meghan Markle's ill-fated project, Pearl, and Dr. Ibram X. Kendi's anti-racist Baby were dropped. Pearl, which focused on 12-year-old Pearls exploring achieving women throughout history, was only in the development stage. The service also produced more woke content, such as He's Expecting, which depicts a man who becomes pregnant. Viewers have blasted the company, saying they had no interest in patronizing virtue-signaling lectures. Netflix's adaptation of Resident Evil, for instance, was received with criticism by viewers who slammed the streaming giant for making the main characters woke and vindictive towards men, Cosmic Book reported. In May 2022, Netflix executives warned they would not censor specific artists or voices, even if employees consider the content harmful. Said document also called on workers to tighten their belts and rein in corporate spending as the company's finances falter. Young activists have targeted the likes of comedian Chappelle for jokes about transgender people and aim to get him canceled.
Okay, say LeBron James changed his gender. You know what I mean? Okay, can he stay in the NBA, or, because he's a woman?
He said in the stand-up special, "Gender is a fact," and criticized what he said was the thin skin of the trans community. The jokes were based on observations made by Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling, who in 2019 said trans women were not actually women and were a threat to her identity. But Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos rode in behind Chappelle and continued to publish the show, triggering a mass exodus of woke workers. Netflix finally appeared to be stamping out the backlash with the memo titled Netflix Culture, Seeking Excellence. The memo, which was sent to staff, was the first update to the Culture Guide in 5 years, when it used to just be called Netflix Culture. However, it keeps the core principles of the original document, with notes on empowering employee decision-making and calling for candid feedback. The docket appeared to be Netflix taking a firm stand against those trying to thwart artistic content they disagree with. The question remains on whether Netflix's commitment to switch gears about wokeness will actually yield results, and if it indeed is a genuine concern of the company or a PR strategy. Netflix, which operates in over 190 countries, has also been looking to grow its share in newer international regions as the US and Canadian markets saturate. Last year, it laid out plans to crack down on password sharing for accounts on its streaming platform. We're always exploring ways to improve our members' experience. We can confirm that we are updating the pricing of our plans in certain countries, a spokesperson for the company said. Elon Musk's golden words. After Netflix stock took a massive hit, following an earnings report that showed the streaming giant is finally beginning to lose subscribers after a decade of relentless growth. Netflix's co-CEO Reed Hastings blamed the subscriber loss on great competition and password sharing between households. But billionaire Elon Musk took to Twitter to influence the narrative, seemingly blaming diversity and inclusion initiatives for the streaming giant's sudden drop. Responding to news of Netflix's share crash, Musk tweeted, "The woke mind virus is making Netflix unwatchable." While Musk didn't elaborate, he did respond to a couple of fans who agreed with him. One of his followers suggested that the woke mind virus is the biggest threat to civilization, to which Musk replied, yes. Musk appears to be endorsing the "go woke, go broke" narrative, often pushed by right-wing critics, who consistently blame diverse casting and socially conscious writing for the financial failure or poor audience reception of blockbusters and video games. The slogan was utilized during the extreme online culture wars fought over The Last Jedi and Captain Marvel, which didn't seem to affect the box office results of either film. Musk has previously posted a meme on Twitter mocking Netflix's diversity initiatives. Analysts have offered several explanations for Netflix's woes, all of which are far more complicated than the casting of non-white actors. Another of Musk's followers responded to Musk, writing a paragraph describing today's media as infested with current year trend woke garbage for fear of offending a green-haired freak next to the ban button. To which Musk replied, "Can they please just make sci-fi fantasy at least mostly about sci-fi fantasy?" While Musk identifies as a massive sci-fi fan and claims to have been heavily influenced and inspired by the genre, he doesn't seem to understand that several of the most iconic sci-fi stories are extremely socially conscious and use their fantastic settings and technology to explore themes that would have been considered woke during their time. For example, Dune deconstructs the idea of a heroic chosen one, while Star Wars was inspired by the Vietnam War, with the US represented by the evil empire. Star Trek offers a utopian vision of a post-scarcity society that has transcended beyond the limits of capitalism, and even featured one of the first interracial kisses on television. Ursula Le Guin famously used science fiction and fantasy to explore ideas that would be considered radically progressive and forward-thinking even today. While cyberpunk authors like Philip K. Dick and William Gibson foresaw the dangers of a dystopian future dominated by megacorporations, emboldened by technology. Of course, as forward-thinking as these creatives were, none of them managed to predict the influence of a billionaire man-child posting stale Reddit memes on Twitter. What a legend.